Welcome to Unlocking the Secrets of Engaging Virtual Employees. We always love our early birds who attend early, so welcome. And we're going to get started in just about 5 minutes.
As some of our guests join us, it'd be interesting if they put in chat what their experience so far with virtual teams.
Absolutely. You'll be able to, although we can't see you or hear you as an entity, we certainly can hear from you and look forward to hear from you. You can use that chat function and the Q&A function to be able to ask questions, share some of the challenges that you're facing and the experiences that you're facing as well. So please feel free to do that. We love to hear your commentary and your questions. So for those who just joined us, we welcome you to Unlock the Secrets to Engaging Virtual Employees. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Very happy to have you here. Such an important topic today that we're going to be discussing.
We keep referring to it as truly the new normal that's coming.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is a whole new world of business and relating, and wonderful to have an expert like you to walk us through some of the things that are so important to think about.
Exactly. And you know, I'm glad you said that, Elizabeth, because it's a really good reflection time to really think about, you know, what each one of us are doing individually or how we're doing it for our teams. So wherever you sit in that grouping, it has impact.
Sure. Look, we can look at it as, we can certainly look at it as a reset button.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
For sure. Some people have been probably fortunate enough to have engaged and continued with it, and yet there are those who this may still be a brand new opportunity.
Absolutely. Welcome to our attendees. You're joining us for an important webinar today, Unlock the Secrets to Engaging Virtual Employees. We're going to be started in just a few minutes. I just want to give everyone a chance to get here. It's just a couple of minutes before the hour, so we want to make sure nobody misses out on a minute of this important information. Thank you for joining us today. Please know that although we may not be able to see you or hear you, we want to hear from you. And you can do that by communicating with us via the chat function or the Q&A function. Feel free to ask questions. If we don't answer those questions during the presentation, we certainly are going to be saving time at the end to be able to address those questions. So do not be shy. Please share them with us. If you have a question, you can bet a few other people have those.
So true.
There are no bad questions.
and I might add to that as well, a particular, a very brief experience based on something we're talking about. Because again, it just gives you credibility and sharing it with the others as well, which people will very much welcome.
Absolutely. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. We thank you for joining us on this somewhat of a gray afternoon.
We've already had our rain. I think it's past us.
Actually, no, we did have some rain. We did have some rain.
Since what?
Thank you for joining us. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes to let some people join us that are running a little bit late, even though our commutes have been cut quite dramatically. Sometimes it takes us a bit to get from one activity that we're working on to the next. So we'll just give them a minute or two to join us. And then we will get started in talking about unlocking the secrets to engaging virtual employees. We're very lucky to have Ann Festa here with us, and I'll be introducing her shortly. And if you want to ask any questions, please do so. Use the chat function or the Q&A function. Let us know how you're dealing with your employees. Please share your questions. If your answers aren't provided during the presentation, we will save time after to be able to do so. Don't be shy. And please, we love your questions and comments.
Great time to put out that last email. And now the time is for you.
Exactly. Everyone sit back, relax.
Yeah.
Enjoy
Make it your time.
this important topic.
Yeah. We like to call it, each person's time for reflection. It's that, 35, 40 minutes of just some really important reflection time on how things are moving along with your virtual environment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's get things started. I want to welcome you all for being here. My name is Elizabeth Aloni, and I'm with Schneps Media. We're the largest local New York City media company with over 70 newspapers, magazines, and websites throughout Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan, the Bronx, Westchester, and Long Island. We are thrilled to be partnering with Dale Carnegie today and to bring you Ann Festa, the Director of Training of Dale Carnegie Training of Long Island, to discuss Unlock the Secrets to Engaging Virtual Employees, the 5 C's for engaging a team. Let me tell you a little bit about Ann, our illustrious speaker. She has diversified corporate experience across technology, sales, and human relations. This diversification leads to keen view and understanding of various business challenges, strategies, and solutions for organizational talent development and performance management. Ann's highly engaging coaching and facilitation skills enable her to quickly assess team and individual competencies and then provide the tools and resource development that result in improved performance. So thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
I will turn things over to Ann Festa.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And again, thank you all for joining. I'm going to actually take myself to a video right now so that you can really focus on what we're going to be discussing in this short time. And again, as I said just briefly, I really want to thank you for setting this time aside. Thank you, Schneps Media and Elizabeth, because this is really time to reflect on how you can really best lead your engaging remote team. Perhaps some of these guidelines we're going to be looking at today and the tips will empower your participation also as a valuable virtual team member. So again, if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to share throughout the chat, we know that much of that would be appreciated by others who might be listening, kind of confirm what their own feelings and thoughts are. So let's just get right started now. But again, we'll welcome any of those questions. So we thought we'd start out with just a very quick little quiz about remote work. And again, in chat, you can just put in what you think your answer might be. A couple of questions. On an average, how many participants today are using Zoom in March of 2020? So would you think it's A, B, C, or D? C would be the answer. So it went from 10 million users at the end of December 2019 all the way to 200 million now in March. When you think about some of our average monies that are being saved by individual workers today, are they saving 500 to 2,000 a year, all the way down to 10,000 or 12,000 per year? And if your answer was B, you are right. Because again, it's around those reduced costs, including your food, car maintenance, gas, and all of those transportation items that are, again, helping those remote workers, virtual teams, to save some money. If we look at a true or false, 77% of remote employees say they're more productive working from home. There is a resounding true on that. People are feeling that they can be more focused. They are better, having that better work-life balance. And again, there is that sense of being able to stay focused with less distractions. And finally, if we look ahead, 78% of all departments will have remote work opportunities by 2028. And hopefully you've got a true on that as well. And thanks to our millennials and our Gen Zs, we really will see almost 3 to 4 employers really adding some type of remote work scheduling by the year 2028. So we can see now that virtual teams really have been on the rise over the last decade. Companies are expanding geographically, telecommunicating has become much more common. Here's a few more statistics. I won't read through each one, just for you to glance at from Global Workplace Analytics. And again, it's only a very small fraction of the kind of research that's currently being done around the increase of remote workers. And of course, what we all know that in the last several months, our COVID-19 has significantly increased this urgent need for more virtual teams. And perhaps it really truly is highlighting what our new normal for today's businesses. And again, I'm sure you won't be surprised at number 5. We will see this increase of more remote workers in the next 8 to 10 years. So we also may be asking if this new normal for remote work is going to be a challenge for those who perhaps right now are inexperienced in remote work. Well, this chart clearly will show that it's not going to be a challenge. And as you're going to see, the new remote workers are highlighted in blue. And they are easily adjusting to virtual work experience as compared to experienced colleagues. Now, I will throw in the factor that we have some extremes right now because we do have a lot of extenuating circumstances with extended families also continuing. So there can be some challenges, obviously, that remote workers today are experiencing. That being said, though, people are finding that there are a variety, the tools of email and chat and video conferencing are all making this kind of communication a lot more available and workable for today's employees. So as the stats are clearly showing that it is inevitable, we're taking this engagement, management, and connection with remote teams, we're going to take a look in today's session about what are the benefits and challenges. Of course, they will go hand in hand for remote and virtual teams. It's important to identify a model of how employees are engaged in this critical type of a new environment. And as the title suggests, let's look at what those 5 C factors are that are going to successfully engage a virtual team. So and again, as I mentioned earlier, I ask you to really take the time to reflect on these various highlights that we are talking about and how does it apply specifically to you or to you as the leader of a team. So when we look at this, the essence of what a team is, we know that it still remains a group of individuals who are working together to achieve that common predefined goal. However, when we take a look at our, sorry about that. When we take a look at our face-to-face communication, that type of team building occurs more naturally, in most cases, I might add. However, the leaders of our virtual teams will really need to take that more deliberate action to really effectively communicate, building relationships, because they are thereby really narrowing that virtual space that's really existing between the remote teams. So we have a couple of diagrams that depict what your team looks like. Perhaps this is you, and you're with one member of your team who resides in a different location. Here is another where this person's living outside the location of their teammates who are also in multiple locations. Maybe you're in sales, traveling to various customer sites, and now you're checking back in. You're part of a project team, IT team, a marketing team. You're working within your virtual team of the same company with teams of your clients, your vendors. Perhaps you are just truly global. You've got individuals working in one country, several countries. So the question here is, what represents, maybe it's more than one of these images that really represents what your teams look like. So whenever we take a look at this scenario, clearly there are going to be benefits and challenges for making a positive work experience for the employee and of course for the organization as well. Now we can delve into the pros and the cons for both the organization and the employee, but for the focus of this webinar, we're going to keep it focused on the benefits to the employee as well as the challenges. So overall, I'm wondering if you could, interestingly enough, put it, what might be some of those benefits that you're finding? You can maybe jot them down. You might want to even add them in a chat. But clearly, this would be the top 6 benefits that we see for working remotely. And of course, we start out always as the work-life balance, how employees are dividing their time during the workday, and how does it fit into the synchronicity of their family. Because of, again, more additional time at times because there's not as much commuting. And I particularly like the idea of the stress. Yeah, there is stress probably managing just your other scenarios that go on, but specifically right now, people have not had to worry perhaps or be concerned about health and being exposed to others. So particularly now in this COVID time, it really worked really, really well. And as you can see, saving money, which we highlighted in our quiz. And, we might need a little of that drama, but a little less drama in the office is probably welcomed as well. So of course, when we look at these benefits and move from here, we do have to acknowledge that there are also challenges that come along with this. And number one, and I can give you a hint, since we are going to be talking the 5 C's, that collaboration and communication, yes, so it's truly one of the challenges, top challenges. And we'll be taking a look at how we can work through that a bit better. The isolation or loneliness that some people are feeling. I have lots of friends who have particular credenzas that they put their workstations in and shut them down because, again, it's sometimes it's not easy to unplug from the day. And then again, you can see some of the other challenges that are facing those remote employees. So before we go on to the next area, I'm wondering if there are any questions that you might have or statements that you want to make around. And Elizabeth, if you would share, I'll wait to hear if there are any questions or statements regarding the benefits and those challenges. Okay, so moving right along, we also take a look along with our benefits. We really want to understand how it is that we are really unlocking the secrets to engaging your virtual employees. And again, when we say engaging, this goes beyond the happy employee with some job satisfaction and contentment. But when we define employee engagement, we're really looking at the level of emotional and intellectual commitment to delivering that high performance and that sense of a win-win in the success of the organization, as well as for the team and the individual. So here, if you follow along, if we look towards the bottom of the screen here, you'll see that we start out from a range of where folks may be feeling disengaged. Employees are not having any sense of feeling valued or connected at their job. And then we start to, employees start to get a sense of being valued, and they gain a heightened sense of confidence and that belief in what they are accomplishing. And with that confidence, there is a sense of being inspired. And as they are involved with achieving goals of their department and the organization. And these feelings of inspired also get into enthusiasm. Because again, there is that, and that becomes very contagious. Not only is the individual feeling it, but it also transcends the engagement with the teams and other colleagues. And once this has heightened, it's an ultimate feeling, even individually and within the team, to really have that sense of empowerment, that level that we identify, the emotional and the intellectual level. And here is where the employee becomes totally engaged and invited to be proactive in making decisions, to creating new initiatives, solving problems, and really improving service and performance. And you can imagine now that how critically important this engagement is, especially for those who are remote. When you're not seeing, and there is that other, not as much of that connection, it's critically even more important that those employees in their various locations know that they have that ability to have a sense of ownership and commitment to what's going on.
And we had one of our attendees who made a comment and said,
Sure.
I really miss the collaboration with colleagues. I'm a social worker, and being in the office, sharing issues and getting their feedback was so helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And the person who said that, you're absolutely right. And again, we're going to take a look at collaboration is critically one of those C's that we do have to work ways into bringing to those remote teams. I'll say that till we get to that. I'm sorry, Elizabeth?
She also said, interestingly enough, that her skills have since developed, especially her problem-solving skills. She's had to do that on her own. And another one of our attendees said that, they see that their level of engagement has actually increased since they went virtual, and was wondering if others are seeing this.
Love it. Absolutely. And I would hope that that reason may be that you have, again, if you're the leader of the team or the member of the team, but your senior management, I hope, are, again, exactly what we said, giving that sense of, let's hear from you. Let's hear from your perspective. Let's hear what new initiatives or problems that you're seeing from a different perspective. And let's give you the opportunity to make a difference. Love to hear them. So happy. So on those folks who I'm happy to hear, I think that you're not here, but probably more on the full range here of fully engaged, which is thumbs up to you all. Hopefully not too many people, or very few are down in this area. But again, the question that I did want to ask would be, what is your level of engagement? I think we heard some really good positive statements here. And for those of you who are managing teams, where would you say your team is in terms, or individuals of your team are on their engagement? And again, reflective to you as the leader, are you enabling the confidence, the inspiration, and the enthusiasm? And we'll talk again about how we can generate more of that.
one of our attendees said that they really discovered that they need to be around people because they live alone and they realize how much they miss the human contact.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we did say that there's the benefits and there's those challenges. So yeah, people are at times feeling that sense of isolation for sure. And again, when we talk about some of our collaborative tools and using those collaborative tools, we're very fortunate to have those in our toolkit today. That might not have been the case 10 years ago, but it truly is, and more coming. So I kid with many of my colleagues now in saying the world of learning of technology is becoming even more critical. If you're not as tuned into your technology today, you're going to have to, because it's just getting bigger, bigger, and better. So here we go. So Dale Carnegie truly saw that, you know, when we're dealing with people, and I think to what everyone just said, we're not just dealing with creatures of logic, we are dealing with creatures of emotion. And again, the feelings that come into that we gain or somewhat can, or perhaps are somewhat modified in this environment is certainly something we're going to continue to look at. So as we again look into bringing the benefits and the heightened level of engagement for you and your team, I think there are any other questions or statements, Elizabeth, we'll move on.
We have a question here. And you know, someone was asking about the stat regarding productivity.
Yes.
And wanted to know, has anyone substantiated that statistic with comparisons by department or by employee? You know, or is that a general statistic? And are there statistics, you know, that discuss, you know, maybe, you know, for example, maybe a sales department is less productive, or maybe, you know, another type of department may be more productive. Have those comparisons been made?
I think that what I have seen in some of the research that I have been doing, that there is a variety of different companies that are doing statistics on a variety of areas. But one thing that critically becomes clear is that it really starts to revolve around the culture of the organization and what they are doing in order to keep a positive promotion of keeping employees engaged, keeping them communicating, keeping them connected. And that really has a huge impact. And I might also say that for some individuals, some of remote working doesn't work. So I don't want this to sound like this is the win-all, be-all for everybody. It is for a large amount of people, but there are some that this is not particularly what their finest work environment is. But we are looking at it from a perspective that because of our current situation, there may be more companies needing to offer that to employees, and how can we best make the best of it?
We did have another attendee who just commented that, you know, sometimes leadership might not be tolerable of some of the challenges that people have relying on technology to complete their work, and that some people are struggling. And this attendee was just saying that, you know, someone was written up for struggling with technology and wanted to know, you know, how could she respond to something like that? And I think, you know, what you put up about, you know, it's more than just logic, it's emotion and the emotion around it.
And I think what we'll do is, as we move on and I highlight these 5 C's for you, I would just encourage you to pick those out that you can see would be beneficial for you, and to sending your message to your leadership, to your team, and to take this as a couple of, it's a journey. These are steps as journeys. You know, you'll do a few of them, and then you'll try perhaps another. It does take a mutual respect and contribution on both sides to try and moving this forward. And I think we said that earlier. Yes, there are varieties of different stages of leadership that may have a little bit easier time than others. to engage in this new way of working. So as we move on, let's take a look now at what those success factors are. So we start off with connection with the team. Again, making sure that there is that common goal that everyone is connected with, is familiar and connected with. Building the confidence of the team members and ultimately the group. Making sure that this communication that goes on is very clear and supportive. These three clearly lead into collaboration that can fulfill itself around projects, processes, innovative ideas. And then ultimately, there is the team commitment to make the goal a reality. So when we take a look first at connections, this ensures that every team member understands the purpose of their role, that there are clearly stated goals, expectations, what are we there to do? You can see, again, a variety of examples here of the common purpose. And do you know what your common purpose, what your team's is? One time I was a director of IT in an entertainment company. And again, with technology, it was really clear that we had very clear measurables of accuracy and efficiency. And we had very specific guidelines that were service level agreements to our customers. So it was really clear to every member on that team of what those expectations are. So I would ask you, how well can your virtual team, you and your virtual team, define your common purpose, which is connecting the members of the department and ultimately to the organization? So ways that you might make that happen is on a regularly show the members how their work is beneficial. It starts off really at the onboarding time. So anybody that is hired, I'm not sure anybody's being hired at this time, but if you had newly hired, it's reminding them what their purpose, what their role is. Making sure that you always include why your actions are mattering, especially when there are times they're delegating or giving feedback. The why is so important to understand. And this is also a critical time to invite the employees to share their win-win stories and also lessons learned. Because again, these would be different ways that they're impacting business activities with each other and with their clients. It's also important that team members tie everyday tasks to the bigger purpose. So yes, your team may know and act toward the company's purpose and goals, but are they working smart? People, some of you may have heard of this SMART acronym, and I honestly believe it's one of the simplest and most powerful acronyms to use today, because it really helps to define specifically what's being done. Is it clear what the measurables are that you're looking for, the results, and when is it being done in that timely basis? So critical to keep that in your everyday conversation, in the daily meetings, that this purpose is clearly defined. When we look at this third purpose, often leaders will sometimes take a look to see what the team is doing. And for us, for those managers, leaders who are here, the challenge is also you. You're the role model. You're the one that is, again, defining how well this will work with all. What are you doing to make sure the connections are there? What stories have you shared that have a positive impact of what you've made for your team members, for other colleagues and departments, for your clients? What new ideas or projects are you proactively sharing with your management? So again, it comes down to, as we mentioned earlier, it's also building the culture of what it means to have this connected team. From here, we go into the second C, which is the confidence. And you know what, before I even do that, let me go back for a second. And let me just ask, are there any comments about connection and purpose? Do you feel that it is clearly defined by you, by your team, by your organization? Perhaps you'll get a few thumbs up, a few green checks or thumbs up. But again, an important piece.
We certainly have a question from a manager who wants to know, how do you ensure productivity and engagement?
So, it's on a regular basis. Some companies will use scorecards. They may have those yearly, again, we don't like to say that we have our goal plans done only on a yearly basis, but it's taking the time to have a meeting with those employees. Maybe it's only a 15-minute meeting once a week to really zone into the specifics. What has been done? What's the measurable that we've agreed when we sat down to talk about this project, these various tasks? Where are you in that meeting? What's your time frame? So it really is having some information ahead of time that you're using as tools to move forward and show progress or show where help is needed for that individual.
What is the SMART acronym? One of our attendees wanted to know.
Oh, SMART's my favorite. Okay, it is specific. Specifically, what is being done? Are we building? Are we implementing? Are we analyzing? Are we researching? What is the measurable for that particular goal that you have? Is it something that we're increasing, or are we decreasing numbers? Are we changing a behavior? Are we looking to improve a relationship with a client? What's the measurable that we know will improve that relationship or build another level with that client? What is it that we want to see to know that measurable? Those are a little bit more challenging than when it's a numeric or some kind of a percentage. The A is that it really is attainable, that there's enough of the training, there's skills that are available, there's the resources to make it happen. Maybe it's not an individual project, it's a project, it's a team project. Is it relevant to the organization? Is that goal really towards the overall impact that the organization is trying to? It's just not a nice to have, but it really is relevant to the organization's success. And again, time, not when you get to it. Hey, listen, if you got a few minutes, could you do this? Never works, ever. When is it going to be? At the end of the week? Is it 3 months from now? Will you have something each quarter? So the more you use SMART, it really helps to be much more objective about what's being asked to be done, what needs to be done, and when is it done. Thank you for that question. Again, you know I love SMART.
Thank
so
you.
Moving on from connecting, as we said, it's confidence. And again, this success factor, again, is going to encourage those individuals to see where their contributions and talents really matter. So, and again, this is where we have to help people develop. If team members are feeling that they're underutilized, they quickly start to doubt what their abilities are. And confidence and competence are really woven together. So when you give them access to courses, to training, to different conferences, giving them time to run a pet project, setting up knowledge sharing sessions with different team members, this too are ways of just helping them to build that confidence. We have, at Dale Carnegie, we have programs like of building human relations and presentation skills, because we know very often people feel much more confident when they're in front of, when they have to give those particular presentations, especially if it's to management. When delegating, breaking items into difficult tasks into smaller steps, because again, that enables a confidence to grow along the way of completing that task and giving them the enthusiasm, because they've been successful, to look on for that next task. In our leadership programs, we give really clear guidelines about bringing delegating to the optimum authority level of deputizing. And by the way, as we are talking of these, These are all the same that are done with your remote team. Focused on their strengths. People's confidence and motivation grow when they have a chance to not only show what they know, but to show their mastery. The question I may have for you is, do you know what your skill set of your teams are? Some of you may have heard of Tom Rath. He wrote the Strengths Finder 2.0 is his latest version book. What a great team activity that would be to get those books, have everyone take those strength finders, and now find out what your pool of talent is and let each other know where the strengths are and to support each other. Be supportive. One of our principles, be a good listener, encourage others to talk about themselves. What are people's concerns, ideas, requests? Let them get feedback, both positive and negative. And not negative, excuse me, it's really more constructive, positive and constructive, to show that you're really investing in their success. And embrace failure. You know, it's okay to make a mistake as long as it doesn't happen repeatedly. You have to make sure that it does stop. However, it really is a time to give people that sense of freedom, that the failure is still something that you still want them to contribute and to experiment and to continue moving forward to that empowerment. And especially in these times of reimaging businesses, what a great idea to have people come with ideas based on something that maybe didn't go quite right, but it brought up a whole brand new idea. When we look at the third C, which is to communicate, it's probably always at the top of the complaint, never really feeling that there's enough communication going on. It's always at the top of the list. You know, and if we really take a look at this formula here, we know that it's really important for the sender of that message to be really clear, because it affects the filters, the feedback that the receiver is getting. So when communicating, we really want to make sure that our reading, our writing, speaking, our listening directly affects the communication process. And can, again, your receiver, when the switch is reversed, again, their references and experiences are affected. The attitude that we send the message, is it positive, supportive, clear, or is it negative, dismissive and very confusing? That's, again, going to affect the filter of how it's acknowledged. What's the sender's knowledge of the subject matter? Is it clear to understand? What's the social system? Are you tying in values, beliefs, religious, cultural background? Again, how is that affected in the filtering and the experience of that sender? We have a variety now of different communication, very simply. We've got our phone, text, email, instant messaging, and again, this conferencing. Not sure, anyone have any other virtual communication tools that they've used? These seem to be, I would say, the general category. And by the way, do you notice virtual communication under complex? We also have face-to-face. We don't want to ignore that there may be times to meet, to have a conversation, which might be more applicable than remote. So as we look at these tools, we also want to take a look at the best way of using them. So it's important to match the technology to the task. So if you're doing a much leaner text-based type of conversation, email, chat, bulletin boards, when you're pushing information in one direction, great. But when you're really getting into some more problem solving, negotiating, where you really want to square off with different ideas, different perspectives, get into, again, that's where you want your video conferencing, so that you really have a much more interactive conversation around these complex ideas. We also want to make sure that we review messages before sending them to make sure that the impact is clear. And very often, you may want to ask for response requested, so people know that there is follow-up action on their part. to the particular email. We know at times also that people sometimes, I would say, get out of sync. They lose touch with each other. They get, again, caught up in, they are remote. They're getting caught up in balancing their work and other personal life. So it's really important to stay in sync. And it's really important to prioritize keeping everyone in the loop. And is it through that regular communication? Is it going to be a meeting once a week for an hour, or is it twice a week for 30 minutes? Whatever it is, it's committed time. So you're avoiding that lengthy silence and people are not sure of really what's going on. Be responsive and supportive. Encourage everyone to respond with their requests from their teammates, and always keeping that very positive, supportive there. And finally, so critically important when you're having those virtual communications, be inclusive. It's not going to be one way. Actively solicit, what their perspectives, what the viewpoints are. And most importantly, with all of these ideas sharing, get some of them implemented so that now the team feels that, it's not useless for me just to talk about my ideas because it's not going anywhere. No, they're going to see them implemented, which again, go back to our engagement, it really heightens that level of inclusivity and enthusiasm and empowerment. Any questions around so far before we go to our next final 2 C's? We looked at, especially around communication, since that is a big challenge for many.
These are great steps. I think really great steps to think about and make sure that you're hitting all of them.
Great. And I would ask you again, which ones are you doing? Which ones do you need to do to become much more effective in your communication? So as we move on to our collaborate, what I would simply say, and it's interesting, as I was putting this deck together, every time I went to collaborate, I kept coming up with something with connecting, and I kept up something with communicating, and I thought, you know what? Let's put collaboration as the 4th piece of that puzzle. So when you connect and you're building confidence and you've got good communication, you can now bring in a sense of collaboration, because this now encourages, because you've established all of these other success factors, the expertise, the ideas, the perspectives. People know that they're important and engaged in what they are. And by doing that, you're continuing to use alternative channels of your communication, making sure that you're sharing your files, whatever collaborative tools that you may be using, and doing it on a regular basis, giving that feedback on a regular basis. So as we take a look at, there's a myriad of tools out there today. I'm sure I'm hitting a few of what that you have been using. And of course, I should have probably put Zoom smack in the middle right now. It seems to be the most popular one. But again, there are so many, and Teams also, really, really important. Skype. So again, whatever tool it is that you're using, does it service all of the members of your team? Is it giving you the features that are necessary to, as we said previously, to again, share files, to be collaborative? Is that providing that for you? When you are looking at those collaborative virtual meetings, and I'm not sure this is any different than an effective meeting, even when you're local, really make sure people know that agenda ahead of time and any materials that they may need. Give people a chance to really absorb it, because you want them to participate during the session. So it gives them a chance to think and come up with, or kind of summarize what they've been going through over the last couple of days in their work. And again, that 10 minutes ahead of time, make it earlier. Talk about maybe somebody had a birthday or an anniversary. Somebody has some story that they'd like to share. So something that really starts to connect the team. You may want to start out the team with something like, some common question. Somebody started out once with, what's the favorite movie you saw over the weekend, or a book or something you saw on Netflix. And it starts some connection. And again, as I said, it brings in connection, it brings in the confidence to start talking, and it brings in the communication. Now, throughout the meeting, you're encouraging and you're recognizing your participants. We love visuals. People take in information in a variety of different ways. So make sure the visuals are there for those who want to see and kind of take in what's being said. Using the tools that fit the situation. Again, making sure that spread the wealth of taking meetings, taking the notes during the meeting. Again, it ensure involvement from each member of the team as well. Hour and a half max meeting, maybe an hour, but what works? And please honor it. Please honor whatever the time is. You may want to have, and if you're one that maybe gets lost in that time, please ask someone to be your timekeeper. Ask someone to help move you along so it does get finished. And then finally, you may want to follow up with some email actions. I would not keep it overwhelming. I might highlight the top 2 or 3 that are really going to be critical for carrying on for the next meeting that you'll go to. So commitment is our final, and it is, as Abraham Lincoln has shared, is what transforms a promise into reality. And here we look at trust, respect, and credibility. And with that commitment of trust, trust brings in a sense of vulnerability. We all need to make sure that we're keeping promises, that we're being accountable to each other. That when we share ideas, when we're making decisions, maybe we have some healthy conflict. We may not always agree, but are we willing to be accountable to each other, committed and accountable to each other for what it is that we want, and build relationships as well? Are we respecting each other? Do we really listen? Notice listen's there 3 times. We have a tendency, not all, but some, to want to answer right away or say the next thing. But why don't we just listen and absorb? Show the gratitude of what people have been extending themselves or doing what it is to make this team successful. And when there is any coaching that's going on, if you're doing, that's a whole nother topic of remote coaching. And here too, there is a sense of bringing empowerment. If anyone is interested in more of that coaching, Dale Carnegie is also, we very much have a team of coaches that are able to bring yourself or your team to that level of empowerment.
One question we have, Anne, is does Dale Carnegie offer one-on-one executive coaching as well as training for managers at companies?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's executive, it's individual, it's team. We have the gamut. And we go from within the career, it could be some financial analysis that coaching needs to be. We have all levels. So again, I'm going to give you our contact at the end of this presentation. And I would encourage you, if you have any questions about the coaching, we'll be happy to answer that for you.
And I did share the contacts on the chat as well for people.
Oh, good. Okay, thanks, Elizabeth. Great.
Sure.
And so finally, in credibility, it's all about making you believable by your actions, by being proactive, by going that extra mile. I love know what you don't know. And that goes back to trust, because are you going to be vulnerable enough to say, I really don't know what that is, and I may need your help, or I may need your advice. So when you have tied together a committed of trust, respect, and credibility, here you have a virtual dream team that really pulls it all together. So as we see on these 5 success factors, when you are making that connection with the purpose, the confidence build those strengths with a variety of training programs so that your team is experiencing your investment in their success. Communicate clear messages, making sure that it is clearly understood and has the right attitude. Bringing it all together through collaboration and committing. And of course, I think we would all agree that there is also a sixth C. When do you celebrate your engaging virtual team? Hopefully, every one of these five are always also have some kind of celebration in them as well. So as we have seen, we're looking at, we've looked at the benefits to embrace and the challenges to monitor. They're going to be hopefully a balance, maybe a little bit more towards the benefits, but certainly we're going to have those challenges that we need to address. And we talked about, again, highlighting how we really bring a team to be fully engaged emotionally and intellectually. I like to always say, people who know me best know I always bring this in. We are all, especially leaders, managers, there are three parts to you. There's your head, there's your guts, and your heart. And they have to be tied in together. And then identify those 5 C factors that successfully engage your team. So any final thoughts or questions that anyone like to comment or share?
There was a comment that about something that you said in terms of underutilizing employees and how underutilizing employees actually undermines their confidence. That's a very interesting concept, you know, that I think, you know, managers don't always realize that by underutilizing employees, it actually affects their confidence.
You know, so many of us talk about our comfort zone, you know, and we kind of tend to work in our comfort zone, right? And so with everything we're doing in our comfort zone, things are going pretty well. And then all of a sudden, there's this project out there that, I think I'm going to give it to, you know, Mary, because I think she might. All of a sudden, Mary's like, oh my goodness, right? But if we don't think about Mary as that possibility, okay, and Mary might be really uncomfortable because now we are way out of her comfort zone. However, really highlighting for her with some of the strengths that we see and giving her examples and supporting her through it brings her to another level of confidence of something about her she didn't even know. And at the same time, finding out, we hire individuals with a particular skill set. It grows over time. Are we always aware of how much it has grown? Has the individual actually, and that's why I go back to even that Tom Roth, the Strengths Finder is a great book to start to take a look at areas of strength that individuals have. And let's not underutilize. Let's have people find new levels of that skill set that they can eventually master. Any other thoughts, questions?
Yeah, so someone else is asking, as a coach, what do you do when the virtual communication stops? No one's giving feedback and seems to no longer want to engage or give feedback. How can you encourage your team to provide feedback?
Well, you know, very interesting. It starts with, and I always, people have always asked me this, what's the difference between consulting and coaching? And sometimes people mush them up together. Coaching for me and for our colleagues is very clearly about asking questions. It's about putting open-ended questions there for people to think about. They may not have an answer right away, but to think about and to come back with ideas and thoughts. So I would encourage with any kind of coaching to do some preparatory work. What are the kinds of things that you want to find out from a team conversation or an individual team conversation? And perhaps start out with a planning sheet of, again, what is the goal of this coaching conversation I may have? What's currently going on right now? Where is it that we want to get some more ideas to take this project or to take engaging with this new client? That's where some of that coaching might be, because that might be business focused. And as I said that, perhaps the coaching is an individual coaching. So again, it might go back to, what are the strengths you find in yourself, Mary or Joe? What are the kinds of things that you would like to see yourself getting more involved in? So again, it's open-ended, and it may not come back with the answers right away. It might be, think about those, and let's take another conversation, let's say 3 days from now. I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Great, thank you. We're getting a lot of thank yous. Thank you. This is so valuable and enjoyable, very helpful, excellent information. So,
before we do say goodbye, I would just love to hear, I wouldn't like to hear, but I would encourage everyone who leaves this session is, what are 2 things that you're going to do differently as a result of this? Is it in the area of looking at the engagement of you and your team? Is it 1, 2? I wouldn't say all 5 right away, but what 2 of those 5 C's are you going to be focusing in on? Really take action. We want them from our team. We want them from ourselves. So on that note, here is our contact, our managing director at Dale Carnegie, Long Island, Michael Frenda. I'm very happy to hear any questions that you might have that we can answer for you around our training. Again, it's human relations, leadership, sales, and presentation skills. Michael's number is here as well, so please feel free to reach out to him. He may also be extending any questions that you may have. And one final thought, and I think it's pretty appropriate today, Mr. Darwin said it way back. It's the long history of humankind and animal kind. Those who learn to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. Aren't we living that now these last 3 months?
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Anne, for this really valuable information.
My pleasure.
To the 5 C's. And we will share the contact information also in our thank you email. And I know that you will be sending all the people that were here a 1 sheet to highlight those 5 C's.
Exactly.
Very valuable. Terrific. Well, thank you so much for your time and for really sharing with us how we unlock the secrets to engaging virtual employees and giving us all the assignment of which C we're going to select and we're going to implement. So thank you so much for that. And on behalf of Schneps Media, thank you so much for attending, and we look forward to seeing you at one of our other webinars very soon. Have a great day.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.